Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I saw this circulating on social media. I think it is an example of how little many Zimbabweans out there understand what is going on here. In this particular one, the gentleman, I think it is, said Igbo Mandaza must understand that in Zimbabwe, National Transition Authority is a dead horse and no amount of flogging will bring it to life because it has never had any. Just to update those who may not be familiar with it, the National Transition Authority that has been proposed by Igbo Mandaza and others is the equivalent of the Government of National Unity of 2008 to 2013. Calling it a National Transition Authority as contrast to Government of National Unity, what is in a name? The primary purpose is meant to be a bridging between the failed political system we have at present. There cannot be any doubt that 45 years after independence, Zimbabwe is a failed state. And there cannot be any denying that we have failed to hold free, fair, and credible elections. 2023, Mnangagwa blatantly rigged those elections. And the question then is, how do we transition from a regime that is illegitimate, as we have at the present moment, to one with legitimacy? And the National Transition Authority or the GNU, whatever it is meant to be that bridge. The primary purpose of the 2008 to 2013 GNU was to implement the democratic reforms and stop a repeat of what had happened in 2008, i.e. the blatant cheating by Zanu PF to change the March results to suit Zanu PF. And then the wanton violence that followed the presidential runoff. It was a golden opportunity, but unfortunately, not even one token reform was implemented, as we all know. Mugabe bribed Morgan Tsvangirai and his MDC friends with the trappings of high office. And the rest, as they say, is history. Ever since the GNU, the MDC, CCC leaders have participated in flawed elections, knowing fully well that the process is flawed. Knowing fully well that by participating, they will only be giving Zanu PF. They've participated regardless, out of greed. We have to understand that. But what we have got to understand also is that just because Morgan Tsvangirai and company failed to implement even one token reform when they had the golden opportunity to do so, does not mean that we do not need the reforms anymore. Nor does it mean that because MDC leaders failed to implement reforms, no one else can. So very well to say we don't need a national transition authority, are flogging a dead horse. How are we going then to transition from what we have got right now, the Zanu PF dictatorship, with its MDC triple C sidekick, participating to give the regime legitimacy? Let's be clear here. 2023, SADC and the AU election observers condemned Zimbabwe's elections as flawed. According to the SADC report, our elections failed to meet our own, Zimbabwe's own electoral law requirements in the constitution. And it also failed to meet the SADC guidelines for democratic elections. Some people have said, well, why did SADC then fail to take action? They did not, because millions, 2 million of Chamisa's supporters participated in the 2023 elections because they believed Chamisa's idiotic lie that he had plugged for drinking too much. This is a historic fact. We cannot deny it. It's not for SADC to say the elections are illegitimate and we dismiss them. If we Zimbabweans accept them, and by participating in our millions, we endorse the idea that we like the election process as it is. Come 2028, I believe that if we can persuade some of these Chamisa chete brigade to stop participating in these flawed elections and give the flawed process legitimacy, SADC and the AU will condemn, will deny Zanu PF political legitimacy. And this will force the regime to agree to some transitional arrangement. Call it a national transition authority, call it a government of national unity. It doesn't matter. Call it whatever you want. And one only hopes that this time the GNU, or National Transition Authority, will finally implement the democratic reforms that the nation has been dying for all these years. And finally get the country out of this mess, this economic and political mess. That is the argument. So I totally agree with Dr. Mandaza's reply to the gentleman How long shall Zimbabweans stand by and watch while they, Zanu PF, continue to destroy our country? We want a national transition authority now. I don't agree with him. No? Getting it now, however, I don't think it is viable. I think the realistic option is making sure that Zimbabweans don't make the mistake, don't repeat the same foolish mistake of participating in flawed elections to give Zanu PF legitimacy come 2028. It's not far to go. But I'll be the first one to admit that achieving that will be a challenge given the Chamisa chete brigade intellectual ability. I believe those Chamisa chete brigade, it will not take much for Chamisa to convince them once again that he has got strategies to making sure that the opposition wins big the 2028 elections, even without even one token reform implemented. So it is no exaggeration to say the Zanu PF dictatorship has continued to exist and torment us 45 years after independence because of our own incompetence and stupidity. What could be more stupid than participating in an election process which you have been warned repeatedly that it is flawed, you will never win those elections. But if you participate, you will only give Zanu PF legitimacy and perpetuate your own suffering. And you continue to participate. People get the government they deserve, whether we care to admit it or not. We do have this corrupt and incompetent Zanu PF dictatorship, complete with its MDC, Triple C sidekick. And it is our fault. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.